So Freya, thank you so much for speaking to me. I looked into your profile and all different sort of social medias and seen that you're doing sports and fashion at the moment, and you told me that as well. So when it comes to sport and fashion, what kind of led you down that route of career?
I've loved fashion ever since I was little. I learnt to sew at my grandma's, so that's kind of where the fashion kicked off. And then I started going to football with my dad from a really young age. And I never really combined the two. I didn't think to do it until I was at uni, and they finally gave us a project brief, which was like really open. You could do what you want. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm going to do something football related, see how it goes. And it's the project I've enjoyed the most. Got my highest grade I've ever got. And then I'd been doing a bit of like just social media. So it was a Watford themed project. And I'd been doing just some bits on social media, like I was very in like the Watford community. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna post this and just see. And it went down really well. The club saw it, they loved it. And yeah, kind of just gone on from there really.
It's always great, isn't it? Like at uni level, being able to do something based on the club that you support. Because like when I was doing my master's degree, my final project was like an audio sort of documentary on Birmingham, and being able to do
Okay.
something based on the team that you support, it just makes it that much better, doesn't it?
Oh, it's so much more enjoyable. And it was the first time I'd really like merged my two biggest passions in life. And part of me was like, I don't know why I haven't done this sooner. Like it was kicking myself a little bit.
Because I think that's the thing for a lot of like young people either listening to this or trying to carve out careers for themselves, trying to find something that they're passionate about. So would your advice sort of be to try and find something that you're passionate about and you enjoy doing as well, so the time doesn't go as long?
Oh, 100%. It's so much easier. Like when I look back to when I was doing that project, I was like, it didn't feel like uni work because it was something that I loved doing. I was designing just off things that I love and it just came really naturally. Like I didn't have to force myself to sit down and do it. I was just doing it all the time.
Because like how long ago did you sort of have that revelation that you wanted to go into what you're doing at the moment? Was it like an immediate thing or was it kind of something in the back of your mind and then it came to the forefront?
So I'd say I've always played around, like the little football kit generators where you can design your own kit. I'd played around with those for years, like maybe probably sort of started that in COVID. I think COVID is where it kind of kicked off. And then like I remember it was about a year ago was when it really kicked off though, because I was kind of looking around Vicarage Road and I was like, you wouldn't know that this was Watford's ground because everyone's got all their shirts covered up because it's cold and it's all just black jackets. And that's when it really like clicked and I was like, I want to make a Watford themed jacket, something that's like your shirt almost, like you're repping your club. It's a bit more obvious, but you can wear it when it's cold because realistically, with English football, most of the time you're wearing a jacket. So yeah, I'd say that's probably when it kicked off about a year ago.
And you featured in the Watford Kit Reveal, didn't you, recently? So for you, being a sort of designer of shirts and that, how special was that to you?
That was insane. So they'd reached out to me off the back of my uni project. They'd seen it and they were like, oh, this is like really similar to what we want to do. Would you like want to be involved? And like I have massive anxiety. So like it was a massive thing for me. I was like, I really want to do it. But like me in front of a camera with like cameramen, I was like, oh, it was a challenge for me, I'll be honest. But yeah, I'm so glad that I did it. And I'm not sure what will top that. But it was definitely hard keeping quiet about the kit. Um, because I think the last few years, especially I know there's a massive debate in the Watford community about red or black shorts, and I kind of knew, and I'd be in group chats with people like, oh, I wonder what's coming out, and I'd have to sit there and be like, you can't say anything, you've got to just be quiet about it for a few more weeks.
You said before that you kind of had anxiety about it and then you probably were nervous beforehand, but then you kind of get that release after, don't you, of doing something that it is so special to you. And then you kind of feel fearful and you're like, oh, this could go wrong, that could go wrong. But then afterwards, once things go to plan and they go right, then you just feel so happy afterwards, don't you?
Oh yeah, it was so good. So I remember when I turned up, the first thing I said to the guys that are running, I was like, I'm not a model, I'm really stiff. Like, and they were so lovely. They like spoke me through it, made me feel like really comfortable. And then I didn't see the video before it came out, so I had no idea what it looked like. Then it came out, and I remember I was at work, and one of my friends would text me because I hadn't really told anyone that I'd done it, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is so cool! Like, it's a lot of you." And then I watched it, and I was like, the editing was insane. Like they did a really good job.
They've done a good job on the editing and they're also doing a very good job on the pitch at the moment, aren't they? Tom Cleverley as manager and things seem to be going to plan at the moment, don't they? Because a lot of people predicted Watford to kind of be in the relegation place at the start of the season, but they've defied all them expectations and now going for playoffs.
Yeah, I would say I think relegation was always a little bit harsh. I was
You can say that
never.
now.
I always thought it was harsh. I was expecting table. I thought was realistic because we'd been mid-table the last couple of seasons, so I wasn't sure why people suddenly thought we were gonna be in a relegation scrap. Yeah, at home we're doing really well. I think we just got to fix that away form. I think we've only got like 7 points away from home. But I think in our first 5 or 6 away games, we won one and then lost the rest. So I think if we sort that out, could be a very interesting season for us.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is with Watford, like obviously they've got that name for changing a lot of managers. And I mean, I know as a Birmingham fan, it doesn't always go to plan when you chop and change your manager. But you found someone now in Tom Cleverley that had been a player at the club. The fans seemed to like him. He had that mural reveal, didn't he, at one of the games where that just goes to show how on board they are with him. So sort of investing in that young coach, how's that worked out for the players? Because I imagine having a manager with someone that they shared the dressing room with could be a pretty good deal, couldn't it?
Oh, I think it's brilliant. And I think if anyone's going to be a manager that sticks with us, it's going to be him. And if he can't do it, I don't think anyone can. So yeah, I'm looking forward to keeping him hopefully to the end of the season. I'd be surprised if we let him go before then, and it'd be a huge mistake, really.
I imagine there would have been some good games already this season, kind of getting that winning feeling. What's the best game you've been to so far this season?
Oh, best game. That's tough. I did enjoy Wednesday away. Obviously, we won 6-2. Bio scored 4 goals. That was insane. I think we're all just like, what's happened? Because before that point, we'd only won one away game. That was only at the beginning of November, the Wednesday away. But at home, oh, I can't remember who we played now, but I think we were like 1-0 down and then we somehow won the game. We all thought we were going to lose. I can't remember who we played. I think we ended up, might have been like Middlesbrough.
One of the things I actually want to point out as well is something that you've been posting about on social media recently. You sort of popped up on my feed when you said about your train journey from hell, when you were traveling from Nottingham to London and you experienced just idiots pretty much making comments and that. So what would you say kind of about that situation, if you don't mind speaking about it, kind of what it's like sometimes as a woman going to football games and that? Because I've read through some statistics that were on the Watford website, because they said that a kick it out survey reported that 52% of women that go to games have experienced, sexist abuse or behavior. And yeah, it's a problem that I feel really needs to be resolved, doesn't it, sooner rather than later?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's harsh to say that it's just in football. I think it's a societal issue too. You know, you get it on nights out. But yeah, I've experienced it a few times this season in football. That was my worst one because I was on my own. I think that's why the situation was so kind of heightened for me, and I was on a trapped train, so couldn't go anywhere. And I tend like personally for me, I've only ever had it kind of up before or after a game. I've never experienced it in the stadium, and I've never really experienced it if I'm with a good like group of my friends. It's only really happened if there's like maybe what me on my own or two or three of us, so a small group, and it tends to come from groups of younger guys who are in a group and they kind of egg each other on. Um, and I think if people didn't egg each other on, it wouldn't be as bad. It's the laughing and giggling. It's the reaction they get out of their mates, and they're like, "Oh, they're finding this funny. Let me keep going." So it's kind of calling, people out about it, nip it in the bud, and kind of making it an enjoyable experience for everyone.
Exactly. And I feel that these people need to be held accountable for their actions as well, because you said that, there's an investigation that's happening. And I think that this lends its hand to like a lot of different organizations that have now been set up, such as Her Game 2, who have partnered with Watford for the women at the game, which is happening, isn't it, this Saturday, I think, against QPR.
Yeah,
And also you've got the Ask for Angela that's now set up at all home games for Watford. So that's fantastic. So in terms of the organizations that, are dealing with these situations, what kind of advice are they giving out to people, and what would you kind of say to people that are listening that want to be informed about this situation and what needs to be eradicated, really?
I mean, I've had support from Her Game too. I've had Watford have been incredible. I've had contact from them. They're really trying to help solve it. But I think it is more to do with calling your mates out and kind of just literally nipping the behaviour in the bud, like I said. Because realistically, as I think, like I am someone who normally will stand up for myself, but I felt so trapped on the train. I was like, I can't do anything here. I can't run to safety if I had to. There's no one else around me. I think the carriage was pretty much mostly all West Ham fans. And so at that point, you kind of just say nothing. and you just kind of pray that the train pulls to a station and you can get out quickly. But advice, I mean, I wish this wasn't my advice because I don't think it's the solution, but kind of like not putting yourself in the situation where you're by yourself. And if you can be with friends, like I know that because I was at the game with friends, I just traveled by myself and they would text me afterwards going like, we should have been with you. And I was like, but that's not the solution. The solution is not to have people around me. It just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't even get to that stage in the first place. And there, one organization that's White Ribbon Day, which was on the 25th of November, and that kind of asked on its website for allyship with sort of boys and also men. And I think that kind of links to what you said as well about calling out your mates, really, like if something happens like that and having that sort of awareness and knowledge to go, well, actually, that's not right because the person you're saying it to won't perceive it as banter at the end of the day, like you do, because yes,
Yeah.
it's completely wrong.
Yeah, there's definitely a line between banter and not banter. And although I've had some negative experience, I also have had some really lovely experiences. Like on the Wednesday day on my way up on the train, I had a really lovely conversation with an older guy who'd spotted my scarf and was telling me about like his experiences going to watch like his team play at Vicarage Road in like the 80s and 90s. So you definitely do get two sides to it. And like I think if the banter had been purely football related, like about like Watford being in the championship, I'd be like, oh, that's funny, like that's fine. But it's when it kind of is aimed at you as a person and you're just kind of existing and you're just kind of like, oh, this has not just happened. Kind of a little bit of disbelief about it, really.
Yeah, and you said earlier as well that it isn't just a football thing. So do you think this kind of lends its hand to like social media? What part do you think social media has to play in it? Because I feel that on social media, it's kind of a platform for people to say stuff without any accountability, which I think is a real issue.
Yeah, 100%. I think faceless accounts, although I think they are definitely cracking down on that. I know that Her Game 2 and other organisations have been able to identify some faceless accounts who think that they're not going to get found out and they do, which is obviously really good. But I noticed that, you know, the personal hate that I get on social media, 9 out of 10 times, if not more, it's from accounts where they're either repping a player, they have no link to their personal name, you know, that they're hiding. And it's really just cowardly because I'm like, you would never say that to me if you had your own name linked to that. You would never say that to me in the street on your own. So why are you doing it over social media just because you think that you're safe?
Exactly. And a bit of advice actually that I picked up from another episode of Tuesday Talks, which I recorded, is if there's someone's trying to bring you down, they're already beneath you. So I think that's definitely advice that can be applicable to this
Yeah.
situation, to not really give time to the idiots.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I love the mute button on Twitter. I think I've probably got 1,000 accounts muted where I'm just like mute, like just go away. I don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It
but
kind
you
of just
do.
becomes routine, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does become routine. But you do definitely have the positive side of social media because I think like for instance, with my parents and stuff, they always like, oh, like, are there positive social media? And like there are. Like I've met so many lovely people. I think I really struggled growing up as a girl liking football because I went to an all girls school where there wasn't really anyone else that liked football. And I was like, oh, can I like it? And so I kind of would go to the games like with like my boy mates or my dad. And I think through like Twitter or X as it's called now, I have actually met some girls, which is really nice. And it's interesting because we all have basically lived the same experience of people going, oh, what's the offside rule? I bet you can't name 5 players. And it's just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, and I feel there's definitely upsides, as you said, to social media because I've kind of seen it in my experiences because I'm doing stuff with Blues Focus, which is like a sort of Birmingham City fan channel. And through that, I've been able to speak to people and then meet people at the ground as well, where they come up to me and say they watch the videos and that. And that's a really nice feeling to be able to speak to people through the following that you have on social media and get to interact with them in person and kind of have the conversations that you would have had online, but in person and meet new friends.
Yeah, it's really lovely. I've had that a lot. So I do football shirt collecting, and like the amount of people that I've met through that has been insane. Because it's something that I didn't post about for a while, really, until maybe about 6 months ago. I just kind of never mentioned it, and then I've unlocked this whole community of people, and I'm just like, this is so lovely that you know we all share the same hobby.
Yeah, I was going to get onto that as well about the shirt collecting. How many shirts do you reckon you have, Freya?
I actually don't know anymore. That's really bad. I think the problem was I went to uni and I collected a lot more at uni. So I had boxes that were at home, boxes at uni, but we're well into triple figures now. I mean, I've probably got at least 50 Watford ones on their own. So too many.
Does it get a bit like sort of tribal with the English shirts? Because I imagine obviously you said like you got 50 Watford shirts, but is there any other like English clubs that you like the t-shirts of, or is it a thing where you don't really go near them and it's more sort of the European clubs like, Spain and Italy and France?
Yeah, so this is just my personal rule, and this is a conversation I was having in a shirt group chat actually a couple of days ago. Is like, oh, what niche rules do you have? And I was like, I personally won't buy another English club because, or I like non-league is maybe a little bit different, but like I would never buy a professional English football club that could play Watford because it would feel wrong. I have had a couple that have been gifted to me by friends and things, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Or like if a mate's like played for them, I have it, but yeah, I think like for instance, Sunderland's home shirt from this season, the long sleeve with the chevrons, has been my nearest to an attempt to buy one, and I was like, but the problem is, when would I wear it? So that's my logic is I couldn't go out and wear another English club because it's just wrong because I am a Watford fan. I wouldn't want anyone else to think that I support another English club. So I try to stick to European teams or just to be honest, just clubs around the world. And I love collecting like when I go to a new country, getting like that country's shirt. I think is really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely a good idea. And in terms of Watford shirts, you must have a favorite, right? Out of the 50 odd that you've got.
Oh, I actually don't know if I do anymore. I think obviously this season's is really special to me because I was in the kit launch. And I really, really like our third kit, which is the purple, because purple's my favorite color. It's the first time that have ever had a purple kit. That's the kind of kit because I love Watford, but sometimes I would not want to wear a yellow shirt out and about on a non-match day. So the purple was definitely a shirt I could wear out and about on a non-match day a bit more. Um, but before that, I do love our one from, I think it's the 2015-2016 season, one of our first seasons in the Prem in my life. Agalo. I call it the Agalo shirt because that's the only player I can think of in that shirt. It's got horizontal stripes, really nice.
Is that the one with like the sort of black stripes towards the bottom, and then they've got like the sponsor with like the red square like in the middle? Is that
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. So that was like early days in the Premier League, like Dini and Igalo up front. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's the one. I think what I really remember is when we beat Liverpool 3-0 and Agalo celebrated with our mascot Harry the Hornet, and I'm like, that's all I can think of when I see this shirt.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like shirt attached to memories. And I mean, in terms of like Birmingham, we've not really had many good memories in recent years. So I haven't really had that affiliation with a t-shirt. My favorite goes back to like what 2008, 9 when I was like what 6 or 7 years old and we were getting promoted to the Premier League. And yeah, kind of peaked from there really.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I think you do have to wait till the end of the season to really like a shirt or not based on kind of what happens. I think yeah, there's definitely a few shirts that I don't really love because we got relegated in them, and I'm like, oh well, it's a nice shirt, but I don't really want to wear it because all I can think about is us getting relegated.
Well, you're going to be far from relegation this season. And in terms of a final Watford prediction, I know it's only what November, December, and there's still a long way of the season to go. But can you
Yeah,
see it? In May, you're kind of walking up Wembley Way, seeing Watford in the playoffs, get promoted to the Premier League. Could that happen?
I would love for us to get playoffs, but also I think this is something that not a lot of people really remember is in my lifetime the only place that we've been promoted is second. We've never won the championship and we've never won playoffs. So I don't really trust us to win playoffs. I think if I'm being really realistic, I think we'll drop off a little bit. Um, but I still think we'll finish, well, but maybe like seventh or eighth, just miss out on playoffs because I think the championship is so tight this season. There's not really anyone that's, running away with the title. Top 10 are all, a game or two apart. So you really could lose two games and suddenly you go from like where we are currently fifth and you could drop all the way to like ninth.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so congested in the championship. It always seems to be the case. But like capping off everything, what is one final bit of advice that you give to the people listening about kind of what you've gone through, whether it be in your career or elsewhere? Like in terms of one bit of advice that you've picked up, it could be like a quote, something you've heard from your parents, just anything really like that you've kind of got in your mind that you want to tell others to help them out as well.
I think it's do what you love, do what you're passionate about, because it may be hard in the beginning. You may not think it's going to pay off, but eventually it will. Because I think consistency is key. I think that's, how you really succeed and accelerate in life. And something I really like is the only competition is yourself. So don't compare, like I'm a victim to this. I think people do it all the time. You compare yourself to other people who are maybe further along in their career. They're maybe 5, 6, 7 years older than you. They've had more time. But realistically, as long as you are further ahead than you were a year ago, I think that's all you need.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for your time, Freya. And it may be that it's Watford versus Birmingham next season. It could be that we get promoted and you stay down, or you could go to the Premier League, so we might not even see you in the Championship.
Yeah, fingers crossed we get promoted, but I'm not getting my hopes up yet, that's for sure.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for your time, Freya.